Welcome to Revenge with Luna. My brother stopped by on a Sunday to drop off my son's birthday gift. He walked through the front door, hugged me, then went straight to the kitchen to grab a glass of water the way he always does. He opened the wrong cabinet first, then the right one, then paused. He turned around slowly. "Tess," he said, "where's the food?" I didn't answer fast enough. He opened the fridge. One container of leftover rice, a near-empty bottle of ketchup, 3 eggs, a half-gallon of milk with maybe a cup left in it. My son was sitting at the kitchen table behind us, coloring. He's 6. He didn't look up. My brother closed the fridge. He looked at me the way he used to when we were kids, and he knew something was wrong, but didn't want to say it in front of our parents. "Careful. Measuring. You bring home $60,000 a year," he said quietly. "Why does this kitchen look like this?" Before I could answer, my husband walked in from the hallway, still in his weekend clothes, phone in hand. He glanced between us. Then he shrugged the way he always does when he's not embarrassed but knows he should be. "Her check goes to my sister's tuition," he said. Just like that. Flat. Like it was obvious. Like it had always been the arrangement, and I was the one being unreasonable for not explaining it sooner. My brother didn't say anything. He set the glass down on the counter. He looked at my son. He looked at the fridge. Then he looked at my husband for a long moment, the kind of look that doesn't need words and isn't asking for any. "Go get dressed, buddy," he told my son. "You're coming with me today. My name is Tessa. I'm 32. I work full-time as a hospital billing coordinator, and I have for 7 years. And if you think you know how the story ends, stay with me because I got it wrong too, every single day until I didn't. People who haven't lived inside a slow erosion don't understand how it happens. They ask why you didn't just say something, why you didn't just look at the numbers, why you handed over control of your own paycheck to a man who used it to fund his family while yours went without. Here's how it happens. It starts with something that sounds like love. When my husband and I got married 4 years ago, he offered to handle the bills. He said I was already working so hard, managing the insurance claims and the provider disputes in the 12-hour days on my feet, chasing documentation. He said he wanted to take something off my plate. He set up autopay. He added himself to my direct deposit account. He called it practical. I called it thoughtful. The first time I noticed something was off, he explained it away in 40 seconds. His sister needed 1 semester's worth of tuition covered, or she'd lose her enrollment. Just a loan, she'd pay it back. His family had done so much for us. The second time, his mother needed a medical procedure not covered by insurance. Again, temporary. Again, family. By the third time, I stopped asking, because by the third time, I'd learned that asking led to 3 days of silence and a look from him that made me feel like I was the ungrateful one. Like I was the one tearing his family apart by wanting to buy my son new shoes without checking first. I didn't realize I'd stopped managing my own money until I genuinely could not tell you what my account balance was without asking him. That's how it happens. When my brother walked in that Sunday and saw what our fridge looked like, something shifted in his face that I hadn't seen since our dad got sick years ago. That particular stillness he gets. Like he's deciding something and has already decided it but is giving himself one more second to be sure. He helped my son find his jacket. He zipped it halfway up because my son is 6 and thinks fully zipped jackets are for babies. He grabbed the birthday gift bag from where he'd left it by the door and swung it gently so my son would laugh, which he did. At the door, he paused. "I'll have him back by 6, he told my husband. My husband nodded like it was nothing. The door closed. My husband went back to his phone. I stood in the kitchen alone with the sound of the refrigerator running and 3 eggs. He came back at 5:45. My son ran in carrying a stuffed animal my brother had bought him at the pharmacy, some kind of striped cat, clutching it like it was the best thing he'd ever owned, which, honestly, it might have been. We hadn't bought him much lately. My brother stayed in the doorway. "Can we talk?" he said. Not to my husband, to me. We sat at the kitchen table. My son was already on the couch with the stuffed cat and the television. My husband had disappeared into the bedroom and closed the door. My brother put his phone face down on the table. He didn't do any warm-up. "How long has your fridge looked like that?" I told him it was just a rough week. He looked at me. "Tess." I looked down at the table. "A while," I said. He didn't make a sound for a moment. Then, "Does he eat?" "You husband, does he eat fine?" And something about the way he asked it, the clinical precision of it, like he was checking a box, like he'd already suspected the answer, broke something open in my chest that I had been keeping shut for a long time. Yes, my husband ate fine. There was always something for him. I was the one eating crackers at work and telling myself I wasn't hungry. My son was the one I was rationing cereal for, pouring a little less each morning and hoping he wouldn't notice. My brother sat back. "Okay," he said. That was all. Just okay. Like he'd gotten the information he needed, and now we were moving into a different phase. He came back the next morning at 8 o'clock with coffee and a folder. My husband was still asleep. My son was eating breakfast. My brother sat across from me at the table, opened the folder, and turned it toward me. He's an accountant. I'd forgotten what that actually meant until I was looking at 12 months of my own transaction history laid out in columns. He'd pulled it from the joint account statements I had given him access to once years ago and never revoked. $41,000 in 11 months. Gone to his sister's tuition, his mother's medical bills, his cousin's car repair, a family vacation to Florida that I did not attend because I couldn't get the time off work, $41,000 of my salary, while I was buying the store brand cereal and hoping my son didn't ask for the name brand kind he'd had at school. I couldn't speak. My brother tapped the folder gently. "This is yours," he said. "Documented. Dated. Traceable." He let me absorb that. "Then, you need a separate account." Today, from the hallway came the sound of my husband's footsteps. He appeared in the kitchen doorway, saw the folder, saw my brother, and smiled the careful smile he uses when he's recalibrating. "Morning," he said. My brother looked up. "Morning." No warmth. Not rude either, just the exact temperature of someone who has decided. My husband looked at the papers. "What's all this?" "Math," my brother said. What happened next took about 15 minutes, and I want to be honest about all of it. My husband sat down. He looked at the pages. His face did several things in quick succession: confusion, then a flicker of something that was almost shame, then the pivot I knew so well, the redirect, the counter-argument. "My family needed help," he said. "That's what marriage is. You support each other's families." My brother said nothing. I said our son was eating half portions. I didn't have money for his school supplies. My husband's jaw tightened. "You could have said something?" I looked at him. I looked at him for a long time. Every time I said something, I said, "You didn't speak to me for 3 days." Silence. My brother stood up, put the folder back together neatly, and slid it to my side of the table. "We're going to the bank," he said to me. "You can come," he told my husband, "or you can stay." My husband stayed. I don't know what I expected from a bank branch on a Monday morning. Something more dramatic, maybe, some formal acknowledgement that my life had been quietly dismantled and was now being rebuilt under fluorescent lights with a number ticket. Instead, it was very ordinary. A branch manager named someone whose name I no longer remember but who was efficient and kind. My brother explained what we needed. I signed things. Within 40 minutes I had a new individual account, a direct deposit redirect request pending with my HR department, and my name removed from the joint account. My brother paid for parking. He bought me a coffee from the cart outside. We stood on the sidewalk in the October cold and he didn't say anything for a while. Then he said, "You're going to feel guilty." "I already do." "That's the part that's not yours to carry." He took a sip of his coffee. "You didn't take anything from anyone. You just stopped giving away things you needed." I thought about my son and his half bowl of cereal. I thought about the Florida trip I saw on the credit card statement, his family, his sister's graduation photos on social media, the ones where everyone looked happy and full and I was not in any of them. "Okay," I said. "Okay," he said. We walked back to the car. That night, the house was a different kind of quiet. Not the tense quiet I was used to, the kind that meant something was coming, that I was about to be managed. This was a quiet that sat still. My son fell asleep with his striped cat. I made real dinner for the first time in weeks, pasta with the groceries my brother had left on the counter that morning without saying anything about it, just 2 bags from the store set by the door like it was nothing. My husband came home late. He saw the groceries. He saw the dinner. He didn't ask about the bank. He said, "You talked to your brother about our finances." "Yes." You humiliated me. I put down the dish towel. I humiliated you. He looked away. Our son, I said slowly, asked me last Tuesday why we don't have the good cereal anymore. He's 6. I told him we were trying new things. I picked the dish towel back up. That's the thing I'm thinking about tonight. He went to bed without eating. I left a note on the counter. It said, "My paycheck feeds my son. That's where it goes now." I didn't wait up. The next 2 weeks were the hardest. I want to say it was clean, that the decision at the bank was the ending and everything after was just paperwork. But it wasn't like that. He would go quiet for days. He told me I was being influenced. He said my brother had always hated him, which was not true. My brother had simply always been watching. He said I was tearing his family apart by refusing to help people who needed it. One night, I sat on the bathroom floor with the door locked, and I made myself say out loud what was actually true. I had not eaten a full meal at home in 4 months. My son's winter coat was 2 sizes too small, and I had been waiting for a sale. I had not bought anything for myself, not a shirt, not a book, not a cup of overpriced coffee since February. $41,000. I sat there until the cold tiles started to bother me. Then I got up, washed my face, and went to bed. My brother came by on a Saturday morning. He knocked, which he doesn't normally do. My husband answered. They looked at each other for a moment in the doorway. I brought breakfast, my brother said, holding up a paper bag. Bagels. My son's favorite. My husband stepped aside. The 3 of us sat at the kitchen table, my son between us eating his bagel with entirely too much cream cheese and explaining at length the plot of a cartoon my brother had never seen. My husband stood by the counter. He didn't sit. At some point he said, voice low, "You've turned her against her own marriage." My brother looked up from the cartoon summary my son was still providing. He looked at my husband with the same expression from the doorway the first morning. Calm. Already decided. She didn't need my help with that, he said quietly. My husband left the room. My son asked if he could have more cream cheese. Little bit, my brother said, and spread some more. I filed for separation 8 days later. It wasn't loud. I had a lawyer my brother found through a colleague, a woman who was practical and direct and did not make me feel like a statistic. We met twice before I signed anything. She laid out the financial abuse documentation my brother had compiled. She used that phrase without hesitation, financial abuse, and the first time she said it, I almost corrected her. Almost explained that he hadn't meant it that way, that his family had real needs, that I was maybe being too sensitive. I didn't correct her. I signed. My husband received the papers on a Wednesday. He called me 4 times that evening. I let them go to voicemail. The next morning I listened to all 4. In the first one, he was angry. In the second, still angry. In the third, something in his voice had shifted, something quieter and younger, and he said he hadn't realized how bad it had gotten and he was sorry. In the fourth, he asked if we could talk. I didn't call back that day. My brother and I went to a diner for lunch instead, one we used to go to with our parents when we were kids. I got the chicken soup because it was the kind of cold October day that calls for it. My brother got the turkey club. We talked about nothing important for most of it. Near the end, he said, when you were little, like 8 or 9, you used to negotiate for extra allowance. You'd come with a whole argument. You once made a chart. I laughed. I remember the chart. You were always sharp. He looked out the window at the street. You just forgot for a while. I stirred my soup. I know, I said. The custody hearing was scheduled for a Thursday. My husband did not contest. He arrived with his own lawyer. A brief conversation happened between the 2 attorneys, and then it was done. He got every other weekend. I got everything else. He signed the financial disclosure and the repayment agreement, $41,000 in structured payments, my lawyer's idea and a reasonable one. In the hallway outside the courtroom, he stopped me. His lawyer was ahead, my brother was behind me, and for a moment it was just the 2 of us in the fluorescent corridor. I didn't think it was that much, he said. I looked at him. He looked tired. He looked like someone who had told himself a story for years and was only now starting to find the holes in it. It was that much, I said. He nodded. He didn't say anything else. I walked to where my brother was waiting by the elevator. Done? He said. Done. We took my son out for pizza that night. The good kind. The place with the arcade games in the back. My brother fed quarters into the machines while my son chased tickets with complete commitment. I sat in a booth and watched them and ate 2 full slices without thinking about portion sizes or what was left in the fridge. The fridge at home was full now. Had been for 3 weeks. I'd started buying the name brand cereal again. Small thing. Not a small thing. 6 weeks after the hearing, I got an email from a nonprofit I'd never heard of. They run financial literacy workshops for women in the county, mostly focused on economic coercion and relationships. Someone on their board had seen a comment I'd left in a private Facebook group, something I'd written at 11 o'clock on a bad night that I barely remembered typing. They wanted to know if I'd be willing to speak at an upcoming event. I read the email 3 times. Then I forwarded it to my brother with no message. He called me 30 seconds later. "Say yes," he said. "I'm not a public speaker. You're someone who lived through it and can explain exactly how it works. That's more useful than a public speaker." I sat with that for a minute. "Okay," I said. "Okay," he said. The night before the event, I couldn't sleep. I sat at the kitchen table at 2 in the morning with a glass of water, looking at the notes I'd written on a legal pad. My son's drawing from school was stuck to the fridge with a magnet shaped like a pineapple. Some house, 4 windows, a chimney that our house didn't have, a lopsided sun. In the lower left corner, the way 6-year-olds do, he had drawn 3 figures and labeled them. Me. Mom. Unka. I sat there looking at it for a long time. The workshop was in a community center gymnasium with folding chairs and bad acoustics and about 60 women who had driven there on a weekday evening. Some of them had babysitters. Some of them had lied about where they were going. I stood at the front with my legal pad and I said, "Here is how it started. Here is how slow it was. Here is the number, $41,000. Here is what my son ate for breakfast." Afterward, a woman came up to me, older, maybe 60, with the look of someone who had been holding something for a long time. "How did you finally know?" she asked. I thought about the fridge, about my brother's face when he opened it, about the way my son didn't look up from his coloring because he'd already learned not to. "Someone else saw it first," I said, "and they didn't look away." She nodded slowly. She thanked me. She didn't say anything else, but she held my hand for a moment before she walked back to her seat. My brother called on the drive home. "How was it?" "Hard," I said. "Good, both. That's how you know it mattered." I drove past the diner where we'd had chicken soup. The lights were still on. Someone was wiping down the counter inside. "Hey," I said. "Thank you. For the Sunday you walked in and didn't look away." He was quiet for a second. "You would have gotten there," he said. "Maybe," I said, "but not as fast." My son's new winter coat fits. I bought it the week after the hearing, the right size, the warm kind with the zipper that actually works. He picked navy blue because, he informed me, it was the most serious color. Most serious. I zipped it up to his chin before school, and he unzipped it immediately because he is 6 and thinks fully zipped jackets are for babies. Some things don't change. But the fridge is full. The bills are in my name. My paycheck lands in my account every other Friday, and I know exactly where it goes, down to the last dollar, because I am the one who decides that now. Not because I'm someone's wife, not because I'm someone's daughter, just because it's mine, and I always knew how to manage mine. I just needed someone to remind me that I was allowed to.